Live. Hello and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. The final Springbok team of the year has been announced. Big moment for Evan Roos, who will front up against the English from a starting berth this weekend. Just his second test start and third test cap, actually, for Evan Roos. And it's a big one up against an English side. A rotated Springbok side. I mean, you'd had to be rotated because there were... four players at the end of the day that were going to have to come in because of the players who were unavailable because of the fact that the test is happening outside the test window. So we always knew there was going to be very much a rotated side, and I think that given the fact that we have had to rotate, I quite like the changes actually, and I think a lot of them make sense. A couple of people are really disappointed that, for example, something like Mario isn't starting, but you know what, baby steps. You know, Evan Roos is giving an opportunity, which is a big one. So yeah, but the big first thing, before you really get stuck into this team, I want to start a poll, and it's going to be, are you happy with the Springbok team? And the last one of the year, actually. So if you're not on this team sheet, you won't play with the Springboks until maybe July next year. So it's quite a hectic thing, isn't it? So yeah, we're into the final week, which is a bit sad actually. It's been quite a very interesting year of Springbok rugby, and a lot of controversy, a lot of disappointment, a lot of ups and downs. I think as a Springbok fan in 2022. And the one thing I think we definitely can agree on is that we've gotten a lot of information about this team. I do think that we know a lot about a lot of these players, and a lot of players have got an opportunity. For example, you know, the Cole concept, we don't really get to see many youngsters. There are a lot of youngsters in and around the squad. You know, Kirkley Orange has been backed fully. He's been as quite a new player to the team, and yet, you know, he's made himself undroppable. Caden Moody onto the bench, for example, is a big opportunity for him. Jaden Hendricks has been backed, and now Evan Roos getting an opportunity. So there definitely has been an introduction of youngsters to the squad and to the side. So I definitely do think that we found a lot more squad depth this year, but yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to sort of see which of these players really take the opportunity this weekend, because it's the last opportunity for them. You know, and something like Evan Roos, for example, hasn't had lots of opportunities, but he's got a chance this weekend up against England and a full string English side. So if he goes out this weekend and puts in an absolute storming performance, you sit there going, right, well that's a genuine contender for a number 8 jersey. He's got a lot to do though, because you've got no direct men in this tour, which I think, you know, will be going to the World Cup. I think we know that. But Jasper Wiese this year has very much been on top of his game. So it's a big chance for him, but it's also going to be quite difficult for him to really, I think, you know, move to the top of the pecking order. But put yourself in the mix, you know? Put yourself in the mix. Make sure that you're part of the World Cup plans. And as long as you're part of those World Cup plans and you go out and you start playing well again down at franchise levels, you've always got a chance of being involved in the World Cup itself. So yeah, we're going to go through the entire team and look at sort of the front rows, the 1 through to 23, exactly what we like, what we don't like. Let me know in the comments, what do you guys think of the team? You know, I think the big people will be very happy with Evan Roos starting. I think people are going to be very disappointed that Ronnie Liebok isn't starting, which I can understand him not starting, to be perfectly honest. And but apart from that, I don't think there's too many sort of selections you can really question. Max Pimpy was always going to come back in for me. With Kurt Lawrence switching wings, no issues there. Really had to start. Damien Lindy is quite a relief to see him starting, because he did pick up a knock in training on Monday, or yesterday rather. And so was a little bit sort of 50-50 about whether he was going to be available to be for selection. So that was sort of the big one we were waiting to see. But he has recovered from it. Obviously wasn't too bad. He will start this weekend. The English side will be named on Thursday. And interesting that David Delaney's gotten a lot of criticism from Springbok fans in the last couple of months. And he then got named in the World Rugby Team of the Year, Dream Team of the Year. So in theory, he's technically the best inside centre in the world, and yet a lot of Bok fans are not happy with what they're seeing from him. So, and I mean, look, a lot of the complaints comes towards the distribution, but I also think, you know, there was an interesting conversation on Twitter earlier about the concept of you know, meters post contact, you know, and how many players can get over the advantage line and continue to get over the advantage line. And David Delaney is probably one of the top Springbok players for that. In terms of getting us on the front foot, because he does make so many meters in contact. So I think he plays an incredibly important role for the Springboks, and probably one that's quite underappreciated at times. So Yeah, I think, it was quite. I think we tried him at 13. I don't think it really worked. I don't think it was terrible, but I don't think it really worked. Jesse Creel, far more assertive and a far more natural defender, and he's going to have the wits about him because that England centre pairing of Owen Farrell and Tuolagi, if they have a good game, can be quite lethal. So it's gonna be an interesting game this weekend. But let's go through the team, shall we? So the front row has not changed. I don't think we really expected it to change. Oxenchair, Bongi, Manambi, France, Maherba. And why would we need it to change? I think that we know that what we get off the bench, and I think that, for example, Oxenchair, Bongi, Manambi, who were the two players who have sort of come back into the starting lineup as we move towards impact players versus starting players, and they're playing well. I think that's the biggest thing. When you're starting loose head and your starting hooker are struggling a little bit, it becomes very frustrating to see Stephen Kitsoff and Malcolm Marx on the bench. But when you have Oxenchair, he's putting in a top performance like I thought he did last week, and even against France. And when you've got Bongi Manambi, who's starting to play his better rugby and really sort of assert himself and soften up the opposition almost, then there's no issue with Malcolm Marx and Stephen Kitsoff coming on later in the game. They end up playing pretty much the same amount of time. In fact, I often come in towards the end of the first half, actually, and could end up playing 40, 42, 43 minutes. So yeah, at the end of the day, now that they're playing well, once again it kind of works, bringing on sort of impact players in for the sort of the vital stages towards the latter part of the game. Evan Smith comes back to the starting lineup. We expected that. Marvin Ory, pretty much the only real sort of recognised number 5 in the squad, and we set piece are going to be important at Twickenham this weekend. The weather's only going to get worse over there in Europe. I don't know what the weather's forecast is looking like this weekend, but you've got to be very strong from your set piece. And Marvin Ory is the line-out general. So him and Franco Master will be doing a lot of the line-out work, as well as even Ed Smith in the front of the line-out. But from a calling perspective, Marvin Ory will probably very much take charge of the line-outs. And that's an important part. So, I think that's what we get with Marvin Ory. We get very solid set-piece ball from a line-out perspective. Rolling Moore has looked a lot better in the last 2 weeks. So, winning your line-outs is a key part of that. And Marvin Ory, I think, will play a big role there. In terms of the loose trio, I'm happy. A lot of people sort of sitting there saying, we need to stop converting, locks to flanks. We're seeing it everywhere. We're seeing that a lock in a South African term, in a number 7, in a European term, a lock in a number 6, for example, are pretty interchangeable, to be honest. We see Mario Tojo play on the flank twice so far this Autumn Nation series. Scott Barrett's been playing a lot on the flank, for example. And I really don't mind it. I think Franco Master's been world class, and if you gotta have him on your side, and I think that he will do the work that allows Evan Roos to really be the Evan Roos we know. So yeah, I think it's a very important selection to have Franco Master involved there if you want to see something like Evan Roos thrive. But before we go to the back line, let's look at some of the comments. Mark Down saying, "Love the look of the team. Think it would have been a bit more interesting to start Monia Williams at 12. Think Jesse would do better with someone who would put him in space, but very happy." Rian saying, "Wonder if England will be starting Monia or Slade. Creel will be happy to cover Monia, I think." Yeah, I think Creel will back himself. RVH saying, "I just don't like Daylander's ball distribution, not a strong point. But again, I believe you can break their players down. And then when Monia comes on, second half, we will play with more spread, more wide game." Well, exactly. JD Quinn saying, "What more can they learn from having Williams at 10 compared to seeing how Liebach would fare against stronger opposition?" At the end of the day, Liebach's probably sitting at 4th choice, maybe 5th choice for the World Cup. Whilst Damian Willems is very much being molded as a player who can move around. So you've got, if he's going to potentially have to play 10 at the World Cup, you've got to give him as many minutes as possible. Right now, if it's a final tomorrow and everyone's fit, for example, Mike Liebach doesn't make the side, doesn't make 23 at all. He probably doesn't even make the reserve 23. Potentially maybe the reserve 23. Damian Willems is in that starting 15. And if something happens during the World Cup and he has to move in a World Cup semi-final or World Cup quarterfinal or World Cup final, and he has to move to our half, he needs to have as many minutes as possible. They basically said at the beginning of the tour, he will play every game at fly half as long as he's fit. So it's not really a surprise, is it? And again, Monia Liebach came on, had a very nice cameo against Italy, a whole different prospect against England. But you go and put in 30 minutes for him now. He leaves the tour with an hour of international rugby. And I think he'll go a lot from it. There's still opportunities for him. At the end of the day, we've got to try and win this game as well. It's very important that we win this game. I think if we had beaten an Ireland or a France, I think we'd have a bit more. We'd have a bit more freedom or far less pressure from a results perspective for this weekend. But we've got to go out and we've got to win the game. So they're picking who they believe is the best, strongest side. Taylor says, "I hope to see Moody on for Mapimpi and Arons to switch his wings. Maybe Liebach on for Delendi. or Creel and Willemse shifts to centers. They say Malkier should be the second choice 5-lock, not Ori. Ori's alright. Sorry, Ori was saying that. Where's Toy? Which one? Thomas Toy is on the bench. PSF Toy still suspended. Any idea why there was no press conference yesterday? I was hoping to get an update on Colby's injury. There was, but we didn't get a recording, unfortunately. So that's why it didn't go up. But we do have somebody actually at the press conference today. So hopefully we'll also have a much better quality video up. So yeah, we do have somebody who's going to be at the press conference this week, hopefully, as well as hopefully be on the game on Saturday. Chris says, Delaney is a great centre and the world's best point RB, but he does tend to take contact and die with the ball. If he distributed more, I don't think he'd be criticised nearly as much. Yeah, but the question is, will he be as effective if he distributed more? You know, for example, you know, if you've got somebody who's really good at getting over the advanced at 12, do we compromise that just for the sake of getting balls out to a wing? And isn't the whole point, you know, being able to suck players in before you can go and play rugby in the edges and stuff like that? There's yeah, so it's alright. He does bases up, and Orkia just brings more. I think different type of players, to be honest. I think Marvin Ori probably suited more to a game like this. He is heavier, he is bigger. As I said, very solid at the set piece. I think that's pretty important. Who's going to kick? Well, that's the big question, isn't it? So you got Faf de Klerk, who I reckon will probably take the main kicking duties. No Ches and Colby, unfortunately. And then if Faf de Klerk's not working, then I think it will be Damien Willemse. But yeah, I think those will be the two. Willemse has actually only missed one kick the entire tour. He's only taken 3, but ironically, he has only missed once. Campbell says, I think Liverpool was 4th in line before the game with Italy. Now very different. Well, who's he gone ahead? You know, he's not ahead of Pollard. He's not ahead of Willemse. It depends on what they've told Alton Yankees. If Alton Yankees goes and starts playing good rugby and is going to go to the World Cup, then he's probably not ahead of Alton Yankees either. So, yeah, I think he is 4th choice. To be honest, I think he was 5th choice. I think they were hoping that Jan Kussum was going to really sort of step up. But, yeah, so at the end of the day, yeah, you probably want to, if you can put more minutes into Damien Willemse against, in a proper test match, they're going to do that. I guess it's Fat kick. We are wasting time on Willemse. Strange take that, I think. What do we know about Alton? Will he still be picked for the World Cup? I mean, apparently, you know, according to an interview that he sort of gave, is that he has kind of been given a bit of a path back to the World Cup team. I think that he's going to go to the Pro D2, which I said wasn't a great move, and I was like, oh, well, you obviously don't watch the Pro D2, and I mean, I do. I don't. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't watch. I won't watch a live match. I'll watch a lot of the highlights because it's a cool league. But at the end of the day, if you've got your number 2 fly half for the current world champions, you shouldn't be playing in any Division 2, regardless of whether it's the best Division 2. You shouldn't be playing. You know, we want him playing. Shouldn't be playing in the URC. I don't know how South African side couldn't pick him up. It blows my mind, to be honest. So yeah, it's frustrating. Mark says, Rian says, James Lynn is there to set the target for the second phase. He's amazing at it, 100%. Mark Dunn says he may be 4th choice right now, but if he can play the same way he did when he came on, he looked like our best 10 at pivot. Backline really fired when Liebach came on. Yeah, but I mean, let's be honest. You're not going to suddenly rejig the entire pecking order after a 25 minutes performance against Italy. Andre Pollard starts next year in our first test match of the year. That's if he's fit, he starts. That's just a fact. I'm gonna come to terms with these things. Why is Chris not included? Because Kenny Moody's there, I suppose. Lex, what's your opinion? Would you have started with some other players? I was actually speaking to somebody, the guy who did the press conference today. I was actually speaking to him yesterday, and this is basically what I picked. I said that I think that they would I said that I thought they would start Evan Lewis because what this coaching staff tend to do, and I actually quite like it, to be honest. I can understand the method to the madness. Is, for example, you know, Evan Lewis, they know what they've got in Kwaka Smith, and they know that he can come in and solidify things if it needs to be. So play Evan Lewis. If things are going badly, you can bring on a Kwaka Smith and sort these things out. It's a bit different with the likes of like a Martin Liebach, Damien Willemse, for example, because, as I said, I think Martin Liebach's tapering on the edge of World Cup plans. If they announce the squad tomorrow, I don't think he makes the World Cup squad. to be perfectly honest. It's a huge call. I think it is a big call, but I don't think he probably would. So maybe he might scrape into it, but and at the end of the day, so they see Dane Williams as someone who can genuinely play flower half at the World Cup. That's what they're saying right now, and what they think, and I think it does work with Billy LaRue, for example. So they want to give as many minutes to Dane Williams as possible. This is an opportunity for Evan Roos, though. This is them saying, prove that you want to go into the World Cup. Apart from that, Mapimpi coming in was a non-starter. I think it's harsh when you think that pre this tour, Mapimpi had played every single game, hadn't had much opportunity with the ball in hand, but nobody was complaining about it. Nobody was sitting there saying Mapimpi isn't playing well, for example. Curtly Arnser has a couple of really good games at 11, and he has played well. I won't lie, he has played well, and now we're going to bin Mapimpi. So I think it's a bit harsh on Mapimpi to sort of say that he's got no more future and stuff like that, just because somebody's coming in and taking his role. I do think now there's an opportunity for Mapimpi to sit there and say, right, chaps, Curtly Arnser's got the opportunity. He's taking it with both hands. You probably are looking at being our second choice, unless you step up. So you've got this opportunity this weekend, but we're never going to bench Mapimpi for me and start Kane and Moody. I think that would have been a really poor choice. Jesse Kriel for me, I said he needs to come back in, and so I'm not surprised at this team at all. I think that the big sort of question mark was, do we go 6-2 split and bring in Jan Goosen, or do we go 5-3? And we've got Marco Verstappen and Kwak Smith on the bench. I think it's quite nice to see Marco Verstappen back up. So hopefully it's hopefully it's okay. For example, and Frankie Moss covers both locks, so we don't need to necessarily put a lock on the bench. And that kind of shows you the versatility and how we continue to sort of prioritize the idea of a utility player, so that we can name no lock on the bench, for example. So where were we at with this? So this is a World Cup fatty pack, and the forwards in general are amazing. The only way it could get better is if Lavanini was in the team. What are your thoughts on Marco Verstappen over Deon Fourie? I think they're going to have a look. I think they know exactly what Deon Fourie brings, and I think that they want to have a look and see what Van Staden is going to give them, which is not a bad shout. Cameron says has to be ahead of Yankees. Not only has Yankees not played well, now he also won't have enough games on him in the World Cup to get on form. Alton Yankees played 3 games for Box this year and didn't play badly, to be honest. So the big thing is about his game time before the World Cup. I don't think it's really about his form. You don't really have much to talk about his form. Skittle Chan says Alton Yankees still an option for SPRINGBOK after everything that happened. Apparently it is. Rian said the Pro 2 is pretty damn good. France select players straight from there. Oh, I just hope I hope he cooks there, to be honest. I think that's just sort of the main thing. At the end of the day, he needs to go where he's going to play. So I suppose you'd rather have him playing week in, week out in the Pro D2 than benching for a top 14 side, or benching for a Premiership side, or even benching for a URC side, which I don't think he'd do. But my only worry, and for him, I want to assume he's got the backing of the coaches to get that move, because surely as him, you're going to go to a Rassi Rasmussen or Jacques Ninabar and say, if I want to go to the World Cup, what do I have to do? And that's not so much from a performance thing, is also what's the best place for me to make into the World Cup squad. And you do always kind of feel that players playing in the URC, for example, have that edge, because there are very few players who are getting call-ups directly out of top 14 Premiership players who have been part of the box squad before, and they go over. Same with Japan, usually don't fall out of favor, but very few players are going to are called in straight from the Premiership or top 14. Jasper Wiese being an exception, and look what he had to do to be one of those players. Even Andre Estesen, to a certain degree, sort of making his way back into the box squad. It wasn't, but they know what he's about. Taylor says Ori needs to front up on the physical side. He has finished shoes of Mostert and Diaga. He is solid on lineouts, but I hope he can win me over by showing that he's capable to do more than outside lineouts. They need to play to his strengths. No, Russ needs to play to the box strengths. You don't just change your entire game plan for some guy who's coming in and making his second start. The whole point of this is to see, can he play within the box style of rugby, and he needs to be able to do that. The Red Saps, I don't know. I think Liebach had more of an impression on selectors than you think. Carter Paul says it's insanity to think the same formulas are going to work start working magically. Marty should have started, so there's a chance they'll lose on Saturday. I don't think. See, the problem with that kind of concept is that basically implying that if he starts, we win. I was incredibly impressed with what I saw from Marty Liebach. He did it. He had a fantastic game. We've also seen flower halves come on and really struggle. So for example, if Monty Leibach came on this weekend and started this weekend and had a nightmare, what would the reaction be? Because chances are it'll be a reaction of, oh, you don't just start somebody in the big test like this, you know? So basically, who's going to kick? Yeah, fast probably you doing the kicking. The probability is much higher than that. We will not. We will. The probability is much higher that we will lose by not playing Leibach. Truth. Oh well, there it is, chaps. We've done it. We've solved it. Everybody, we know. If apparently statistically speaking, the person who's played 24 minutes of international rugby, if he starts against England, we win. We statistically just win. Apparently, not sure how that's quite true. But sure. Now, also, let's not pretend that Monty Leibach came on when the Boks were down and out of it, and then he sort of turned things around. And I'm not trying to take away anything from his performance, but we were also very comfortable in a very good position when he came on. I actually want to go see exactly where we were. And see, the sad thing is, people probably just sort of interpret this as I just don't want to play. I would like to see him play, but as I said, coming off the bench against the Italian side, which has already been bullied, I think is a pretty different prospect to starting against an English side. At home, at Twickenham, one of the harder places to go and play your rugby. Remember, this is an English side that beat us last year, just BTW. Here we are. Here's the timeline from last week. So Monty Leibach came on. When did Monty Leibach came on? In the 48th minute, you replaced Ches and Colby. So, yeah, we were already ahead at the time. Again, I say he did play well. Not saying he didn't, but Villiers is going to be at first receiver anyway. The back line, we're not going to throw the ball around as much as we did against Italy. Also, let's be brutally honest, and we can't. We're playing a completely different side, in completely different conditions. Let's see what the weather is. Weather, London. So this weekend, for example, Saturday is 12 degrees and raining. Not quite the same as Genoa last week, is it? So it's a different time of day. It's a night game. It's under lights. It's going to be a slugfest compared to what Genoa's conditions, which were very much made for running rugby. Mapimpi's into the side for physicality under the high ball. So horses for courses, yeah, people. Horses for courses. Quite a few comments coming in here saying, where we at? My cousin says, not totally unhappy, so stoked for Evan. He'll be itching like a lot of other folks. I would have liked to have seen Monty start with Damien at 12, possibly Damien Delindi at 13, be that as it may. Skittle Chan says, so we still have Alton as a pick for the World Cup. Yeah, he's still in the reckoning, I think. So this says, Kurt Janssen does not work hard enough. He crosses the whitewash, puts the ball down right there. Everyone else in the team fights hammer and tongs to make the extra 2 meters that much easier. Weird take for me, but sure. Avery says, I like the team. Hope Monty gets 30 to 40 minutes. I think he is a replacement for Alton. Messi says, Willem has the opportunity to be the greatest Bok player of all time. Big shout. If we kick, we are going to get hit. We are going to kick. I think you're pretty naive. You don't think we are. And it's look at the what did I just say? 12 degrees, raining. 75% chance of rain at 7 o'clock. It's going to be cold and it's going to be wet. Not exactly going to just be this like perfect conditions to just. It's going to be a slugfest. It's going to be up and unders. It's going to be hard graphs. It's going to be set pieces. It's going to be test rugby in every sense of the word. It's not going to be a pretty game, people. Let's prepare ourselves now for the fact that it's not going to be a pretty game. And it's going to be tough under the high ball as well, for example. You got Freddie Stewart, who's one of the best players there, under the high ball probably. But yeah, it's going to be a very much a slugfest. And to be honest, I think David Williams is going to be important under the high ball as well. Something he does do very well. So I'm interested to sort of see how we use Williams and Villiers together, because I like to see Williams quite sort of being used defensively, or I'd like to see him roaming at the back, for example, and we need to have him under the high balls. He needs to be competing next to Freddie Stewart, because I think if Freddie Stewart's up against Villiers, we are going to struggle. Roberto says, I think they're going to use Williams as utility in a 6-2 split for the World Cup. Yeah, they will. So that's why he needs to play a 10 as much as he can. Chesney Colby's not injured, he's just not available. WLK says the team is expected, but I would like to see Money at 10 to get into the right game. Into the game that a kicker is dangerous. Jandy says Liebach is a genuine 10. Why not play him and give us a better goal kicker? Frank says hot take. I'm not convinced by worst form at the moment. I would have started Kwacha. Interesting as time. So, yeah, I'm not really going to talk about the Money at 10 comments because we've kind of sort of spoken about that the entire way. It's the same as Emil India at inside center. You know, yeah, we would have liked to have seen. We would have liked to have seen Damien Vincent playing at 12, but for, again, the conditions, wet, rainy, England, Owen Farrell, Damien Delaney needs to go run over a few people. That's what I like to see. Same as Jesse Creel. You know, from a defensive aspect, we've got to have our best defensive players ready for Saturday, and he is the best defensive player in that backline. You might not think it. You might not want to think it. It's basically a fact, though, that he is. So... Same reason why I'm probably starting Banker Mustard. He's exactly the type of player you want in these conditions. If you're going to sit there and go and play in wet conditions, if it's going to be a slogfest, it's going to be tight, if it's going to be, tricky, you want grafters as well. You want players who are just going to carry the ball up relentlessly, players who are going to make tackle after tackle after tackle. Frank Master gives you all of that and more. So, same as Marvin Ori, to be honest. You know, you want grafters this weekend. I personally think that Ruiz is going to struggle a little bit because I don't think, I think that he is somebody who doesn't play a lot in tricky conditions. So I think it's a very nice test for him to see how he can do because it's not going to be Aaron Ruiz running around with the centers and Stormers being put into half gaps, finding himself on the wing, creating one-on-ones for him. It's going to be a very condensed match. It's going to be he's going to have to do a lot of hard yards. He's going to have to be put in a big defensive shift, and he's going to have to be, we all know he's a hard runner, but he's going to have to be physical. He's going to have to actually take contact and be able to take up one or two defenders and still be able to recycle. He's got to be able to sort of do those sort of hard yards. It's not just going to be a case of him, having plenty of space to run up there because I don't think the conditions are going to allow it. As I said, guys, it's going to be muddy. It's going to be horrible. It's going to be, those conditions where you watch going, I'd rather do anything else besides play rugby in these conditions. I think that's what we're going to see on Saturday. So it's going to be a very interesting sort of tactical game and very interesting to sort of see how we go because we have seen against France and Italy, the Boks are using far more ball in hand. This weekend doesn't really lend itself to ball in hand. It lends itself to being much closer, much tighter. And we are going to have to adapt very quickly because England are, this is their bread and butter, these type of conditions. It's a case of trying to out muscle a side who are going to go to 6-2 split. I'm pretty guaranteed about it. I don't think there's too much question about it. They are going to go with a 6-2 split with England. They're going to try and match us up front. Ellis Genge, Kyle Sinclair, Luca and Dickey are a very good front row. Johnny Hill, Maury Toje. If they go with, I'd be interested. I'd almost expect them to go Maury Toje on the flank once again. I'd be surprised to go with Sam Simmons. Not a conditions that really suit somebody who's more in sort of the Quacker mold in terms of being a bit quicker around the park and not necessarily as big. I think it is going to be a thud fest, unfortunately. So good luck for the weekend. It should be a great game. So Scotty Dry, thank you very much. A couple of people say that Noche could have been part of it. Yeah, I would have liked to have seen Noche. But again, wet conditions, tight conditions, Markov and starting winning you penalties, winning you breakdowns, slowing the ball down. Probably more important than someone who is a bit better in the loose. But I do think that Noche has given himself a chance to go into the World Cup with his performance against the SA. I think that he was one of the few players who said, listen, I still have lots to give. I still have plenty to give. And hopefully we'll see him really take that form into the Sharks. And I'm hoping he'll just get more game time on the Sharks. Such a nice player. When he's playing good rugby, he's an awesome player to watch. So hopefully we'll see more Sigurd Noche. Last couple of comments before we wrap up. Ruiz needs to have a good game, otherwise it's going to be a last choice for 8. Says the Red Suffer. Mark Dunn saying, I think regardless of the opinions on who starts, this team can definitely get the job done. It's going to be a hard game, but I honestly think we got this faith in the team. I like that. Katana saying, do you think Jacques would chuck Young Moody at 13 second half? Absolutely not. Obviously, do you think Este has improved himself? I think he played awesome. I think he very much kept himself in the running. I think that he showed that he's got a lot to give. Mark Dunn said a few people in the squad who will have to play their best game this weekend to get into the World Cup squad, 100%. My cousin saying, I like the 5-3 split with known ball thieves like Marco, Kitsov, Kwacha. If we can slow their ball and rattle Smith, we can roll them. Yeah, I think the big thing for me is I think we need to see us... I'm going to end the poll as well, so I think we need to see us... We need to put Marcus Smith off his game. He's very much an exciting player. He's got a decent kicking game, but I think he's a player that likes to attack the line. He likes to keep ball in hand. If we can go put pressure under him from a tactical point of view, then hopefully that will go a long way towards us, putting him under pressure. Peter say, for those 72% of who you voted to approve of this team, did you really not see yourselves in that team? I don't know what you mean by that. Maybe we could see Aronson versus Porter, LaRue versus Stewart, Vincent versus Smith. Roberto Wilco say, appreciate your show. Well, thank you very much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. That's the first super chat in a long time, actually. I've got to know what it feels like to get a super chat. So, Roberto, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for that. We are going to wrap up, people. And, please do smash like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. We will be live tomorrow. We're going to break this down a little bit more. We will have the press conference up in the next hour or two. Lots of content to come up your way. So Jock will be able to answer all your questions. Everybody keeps asking, why isn't Molly Debok at 10? Well, Jock, I'm sure will have been asked it, and I'm sure you'll have answers for you. So you can go check what he's going to have to say a bit later. Thank you very much, people. Do keep well. Let's try and keep pushing so we can try and see if we can get up to that 23,000 mark at the end of this weekend. URC Rugby as well back there, which should be quite fun. And I'll chat to you guys all very, very soon.